The Thalians had once been a proud and joyful civilization, spread across 100 stars. Their cities glittered like jewels on distant planets, and their people thrived with music, art, and science. But now all of that beauty was crumbling into dust. The Voraks had come, merciless, powerful, and unstoppable. Their warships moved like shadows of death across the Thalian systems, and one by one, planets fell. Lyra, a Thalian commander, stared out from the bridge of her small command ship at the fiery ruins of her homeworld. Smoke and ash curled into the sky, twisting the stars into something cold and distant. Her heart ached at the thought of her people, scattered and frightened with nowhere to run. "Lyra," said her communications officer, voice trembling, "the Voraks fleet is approaching. There is nowhere left to hide." Lyra's hands tightened on the railing. "We cannot hide," she said softly. "We can only reach out and hope someone answers." She activated the ship's ancient long-range transmitters. The message she sent was simple, almost pleading. It was repeated endlessly, a soft hum in the void. "If anyone can hear us, please help. We are all that remains. We are begging." Days passed and still no answer came. The galaxy, vast and full of life, seemed deaf. Every system they reached out to gave only silence in return. Lyra watched star after star pass by the viewport, feeling the weight of isolation pressing against her chest. Each unbroken second without a reply felt like the slow pull of gravity into despair. Her crew moved quietly, focused on survival, but their eyes betrayed their fear. Young Thalian cadets who had never faced war before now looked like old souls, carrying the weight of worlds that would never forgive them for being powerless. Lyra knew she had to stay strong. She had to be the hope they had left, even if hope itself felt like a fragile flame in a storm. "Commander," the science officer called, "we're picking up signals from other systems. Could be other species. Maybe?" Lyra's heart leapt. She leaned forward, her antennae twitching in anticipation. The message was garbled, broken, almost meaningless, but there was no mistaking the faint pattern of intelligent life. "Patch it through," she ordered. "Every second counts." Static filled the room. Then a voice, strange and deep, came through. It was unfamiliar, not the smooth speech of the Thalians, but it was there. "Help coming?" Lyra whispered, barely believing it. But before she could even finish speaking, the signal died. Static swallowed it again. The Voraks were closing in faster than ever, and the silence of the galaxy returned. Lyra sank into her chair, exhaustion weighing on her. She remembered stories from Thalian elders, tales of the galaxy's great civilizations and alliances. "There are others out there," they had said. "Somewhere beyond the stars allies wait." But now those stories felt cruel, like myths meant to comfort children before bedtime. The Thalians had cried out to the galaxy, and the galaxy had turned its back. The crew tried to keep working, repairing shields, plotting escape routes, but the Voraks were relentless. Lyra spent every moment of her waking hours scanning for any sign of rescue, any glimmer of hope. She would not allow despair to take them. Not yet. And then, in the quiet of her cabin, Lyra whispered to the stars herself, "Please, anyone, hear us. We are not ready to die. Not yet." Her voice was almost lost in the hum of the ship, but she meant every word. She was speaking not just for herself, but for every Thalian child hiding in a ruined city, for every elder watching their world crumble, for every life snuffed out before it had a chance to shine. The message continued, cycling through every system, every planet, every star. "We are here. We are afraid. We are alone. Please help." Outside the ship, the stars were indifferent. The vastness of space seemed to stretch endlessly, and the Voraks fleet glided closer like the shadow of inevitability. Lyra stared out at the approaching darkness, her heart heavy, yet somewhere inside, a tiny spark of determination burned. If the galaxy would not answer, maybe, just maybe, someone would. Lyra did not know who or from where or how, but she could not stop hoping. The Thalians had reached out into the void with nothing but a plea, and though silence had answered so far, she would continue. She would continue because the choice to fight, to survive, to hope, was the only thing left that truly belonged to her people. The Voraks would come. The stars would be filled with fire and death. And yet, Lyra whispered once more, her voice stronger now, "Somewhere, someone will answer. Earth, hear us. Please, hear us." In that small, fragile command ship, drifting alone against an endless galaxy, hope clung stubbornly to life. like a single candle burning in the dark. Far from the shattered Thalian systems, in the quiet orbit of a neutral star, the human vessel Horizon drifted silently. Lieutenant Marcus sat at the communications console, scanning the endless hum of signals from across the galaxy. It was routine work, meant to fill idle hours, but today something unusual flickered on the screen. A strange, broken transmission, faint and trembling. Marcus tilted his head. The signal was unlike anything he had ever seen. Not human, not any known alien language in the database, yet it carried something undeniable. Fear. Desperation. The raw cry of a species on the brink of extinction. "Captain," Marcus called, his voice tight with urgency. "I'm picking up a transmission. It's a distress call, but it's not from any known civilization. It sounds scared." Captain Elena of the Horizon walked over, her eyes narrowing at the console. "Play it for me," she said. The static-filled message came through, a series of melodic tones and broken words, almost like crying. "This is not just a request," Marcus said softly. "It's a plea. They are begging, Captain, and it feels real, terribly real." Elena's hand rested on the console, feeling the vibrations of the signal. "We've trained for this," she said quietly. "But training doesn't prepare you for hearing a whole world scream for help. Prepare the crew. We're going to respond, whatever it takes." The announcement went over the ship's intercom. The Horizon had never carried a mission like this. No humans had gone this far before, responding to an unknown species in the depths of space. Yet the crew's faces showed determination, not fear. They were ready. Meanwhile, in the Thalian command ship, Lyra watched the stars with growing desperation. Weeks had passed, and still no answer had come. Her crew grew thinner in spirit each day, but she refused to let despair rule them. Then suddenly the communications panel flickered. A faint voice broke through the endless static. "This is Earth," it said. The words were simple, human, but in them was something extraordinary. Certainty. "We received your signal. We are coming." Lyra's heart nearly stopped. She stared at the screen, tears forming in her eyes. She did not trust this feeling immediately. She had hoped before, and hope had died too many times. But the voice was steady, calm, full of purpose. "Someone heard us." On the horizon, Captain Elena smiled, a rare warmth in the cold control room. "They're alive," she whispered. "And we are their answer." The human crew began preparations immediately. Star charts were pulled, jump points calculated, and emergency protocols set. Humanity had never faced a challenge like this. They were stepping into a war they barely understood, to save a civilization they had never met. And yet they felt the undeniable pull of responsibility. Someone had to act. If not them, then who? As the Horizon jumped into faster-than-light travel, Marcus and Elena monitored the Thalian signal. The static was still there, but behind it shone hope. Lyra and her crew clung to every word, trying to understand the strange language, finding fragments they could respond to with the ship's limited translation software. "We are coming," Elena's voice echoed in the translation. "Hold on. You're not alone." Lyra's crew whispered the words among themselves, repeating them as if they were a prayer. For the first time in weeks, smiles flickered on their tired faces. The despair that had filled their hearts began to crack, revealing a fragile hope beneath. During the journey, the Horizon encountered fragments of Vorax patrols. Skirmishes broke out in the void, but human pilots fought with a courage born of purpose. Each victory, small as it was, sent ripples of hope to the Thalians, who could watch only through the static transmissions, cheering when the enemy ships exploded into glittering fire. Lyra, standing at the command bridge, allowed herself a moment to breathe. "They came," she whispered to her second in command. "Someone came." The words felt strange, almost unbelievable, but they were real. For the first time, she could believe in survival, in rescue, in allies beyond their own species. As the Horizon neared the Thalian systems, Elena gathered her officers. "This is more than a rescue mission," she said. "This is a promise. We are going to show them that even when the galaxy turns its back, humanity will answer. We are the answer, and we will not fail." Marcus, watching the stars streak past in faster-than-light travel, thought about the billions of lives depending on them. Not just the Thalians, but the principle itself. That life, in all its forms, deserved to be protected. This is why humans do not turn away, he thought, even when everyone else has failed. In the quiet moments between preparations and combat drills, Lyra continued to broadcast messages to the approaching humans. "We are waiting," she said softly, her voice shaking with emotion. "Please, we have no one else. Only you will answer." And somewhere, far across light years of void, the humans moved faster, braving dangers unknown, drawn by something more than duty, drawn by the simple truth that life, wherever it cries out in pain, must be answered. For the Thalians, hope had returned. For the humans, purpose had begun. And somewhere in the endless darkness of space, the first thread of connection between two species, two worlds, had been woven. Back on Earth, the news of the Thalian distress signal spread like wildfire. Governments, scientists, and civilians alike gathered around screens and communication hubs. The galaxy was vast and help was scarce, but one civilization had heard the desperate cry. Humanity had a choice: remain observers or act. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Leaders spoke in tense, hurried tones. Some argued caution, others action. But one voice rose above the others, clear and unwavering. We cannot turn our backs. If we ignore this call, if we fail to act, what does it say about us as a species? This is our moment to show the galaxy who we are. In the weeks that followed, humanity mobilized like never before. Starships once reserved for exploration were retrofitted for combat. Fleets were assembled, from massive warships to swift transport vessels. Scientists worked tirelessly to improve shields, weapons, and engines. Every department, every hand, every mind focused on a single goal: reach the Thalians before it was too late. On the bridge of the flagship Horizon, Captain Elena watched as Earth's finest crews prepared for the journey. Each officer, each pilot, each engineer knew the stakes. They were traveling into unknown space, facing an enemy no human had ever fought. And yet none of them hesitated. Courage, raw and fierce, filled the corridors of the ship. In her quarters, Elena read the recordings of the Thalian pleas, the fear, the exhaustion, the despair. It was heartbreaking. But beneath it all, there was something else: a quiet determination to survive. Humanity had heard that determination and had chosen to respond. For Elena, that choice was not just duty. It was honor. Meanwhile, aboard the Thalian command ship, Lyra and her crew waited, scanning the stars for the faintest sign of hope. Days turned into weeks, yet the universe remained silent, until a new transmission arrived. "This is Earth. We have received your call. Help is on the way," the human voice said. Lyra's antennas quivered with disbelief. She turned to her crew, who stared at her wide-eyed. Tears formed in many eyes, tears of relief, joy, and disbelief. Lyra pressed her hand to the console. "They came," she whispered. "Someone came." The human fleet jumped into action. They traversed light years at unprecedented speeds, navigating treacherous warp routes and avoiding Vorax patrols. Each jump carried risks, but humanity pressed forward with unwavering determination. During the journey, the crew of the Horizon trained tirelessly. Pilots drilled in simulated combat, engineers repaired and upgraded every system, and scientists calculated every possible scenario. They were preparing not just to arrive, but to fight, to protect, and to save. Captain Elena addressed her crew before the final jump into Thalian space. "Remember why we are here," she said. "These people called out, and we heard them. The galaxy turned away, but we did not. We go forward not because it is safe, but because it is right. You are the answer they have been waiting for." On the Thalian bridge, Lyra continued to broadcast, struggling to communicate in broken code. "Earth, I'm coming, hold, hope, we live." The words were simple, halting, but their meaning was clear. Someone is coming. Someone heard us. Every human ship that appeared in the system carried the weight of their species' promise. Humanity had left Earth to answer a plea no one else had heeded, and the Thalians, for the first time in months, dared to hope that survival was possible. Even as Vorax scouts prowled the outer systems, The humans did not falter. Each skirmish, each narrow escape, brought them closer. The Thalians could only watch through the broken signals, cheering silently when human fighters clashed with Vorax ships, their courage lighting a spark of hope across the darkness of space. Lyra's heart, heavy with months of fear and uncertainty, finally allowed herself to believe. Hope was no longer just a fragile idea. It was real, tangible, arriving in the form of humans willing to cross the galaxy to save her people. For the first time, the Thalians did not feel abandoned. Someone cared. Someone had chosen to act when everyone else had turned away. And that choice, humanity's choice, was more powerful than any weapon. As the human fleet drew nearer to the Thalian systems, Lyra turned back to her crew. "Prepare yourselves," she said. "We will see them soon. And with them, perhaps, our future." In that moment, the vast, silent galaxy seemed a little less empty. Somewhere far across the stars, humans sailed toward a people they had never met, guided by courage, by compassion, and by the simple truth that even in a cold, indifferent galaxy, someone could hear a cry for help and choose to answer. The journey was dangerous. The enemy was ruthless. But for the first time, the Thalians believed that survival and hope was possible. Humanity had stepped forward, and the story of their courage was only beginning. The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly before the Earth fleet. Star after star passed by, their light cold and distant, as if the galaxy itself were watching in silence. The human ships moved with purpose, but tension filled every corridor. Every officer, every pilot, every crew member knew that one misstep could mean death. And yet they pressed forward, driven by a promise. No one who cries for help will be left unheard. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Elena studied the star charts, mapping the most efficient route to the Thalian systems. Beside her, Lieutenant Marcus monitored communications, scanning for Vorax activity. "Captain," he said, his voice tight with focus, "we're detecting Vorax scouts ahead. Small ships, but armed. They're patrolling near our path." Elena's eyes hardened. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered. "We will not let them block our way. Remember why we are here. Every life we save is worth every risk." The first clash was sudden. Vorax ships swarmed like shadows, their weapons cutting across the void with deadly precision. Human fighters launched from their vessels, weaving and twisting through bursts of plasma fire. Explosions lit the darkness, painting it in shades of red and gold. Marcus felt his heart hammer in his chest. He had trained for combat, but nothing could prepare him for the raw intensity of facing an enemy so ruthless, so single-minded. Yet alongside fear was determination. "We are not just fighting for ourselves," he whispered. "We are fighting for them." Lyra and her crew, watching the battle unfold through their damaged sensors, could hardly believe their eyes. Ships from a distant world, humans, were engaging the Vorax with courage that defied reason. They moved with a daring precision, protecting the Thalians' fragile convoy, even as the enemy outnumbered them. A young Thalian cadet, hiding behind the bridge consoles, whispered, They came for us. They actually came." Lyra's antennas twitched in agreement. "Yes," she said softly, "and they will not leave us behind." As the battle continued, human pilots displayed creativity and bravery that stunned even the Thalians. Ships darted between debris fields, feigned retreats, and coordinated attacks in ways no one had predicted. Each Vorax ship that fell was a spark of hope for the Thalians. Each human life risked was a message. "We fight for you." On board the Horizon, Captain Elena issued orders calmly, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Focus on shields first, then counterattack. Protect the convoy. We are their shield and we will not break." In the midst of the fight, Marcus piloted a fighter alongside a Thalian ship trapped by a Vorax cruiser. Plasma blasts streaked past them, shaking the hull with every hit. "Hold on," he shouted. "We've got you." Together, human and Thalian crews fought side by side, dodging death and weaving through destruction, saving hundreds of civilians. Lyra, witnessing the bravery, felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The humans were more than warriors. They were angels in the darkness, risking themselves for strangers. She felt tears sting her eyes. This is what we were waiting for. As the last of the Vorax scouts were pushed back, the human fleet regrouped. Damage was heavy, but the convoy had survived. Lyra sent a shaky message through her communications link. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We did not think anyone would answer. Captain Elena's voice came back over the comms, firm and resolute. We always answer. No one should ever face the galaxy alone. You are not abandoned. Not now, not ever. For the Thalians, every word was a lifeline. For the humans, every maneuver, every risk, every sacrifice was proof of their belief. That life, no matter how far or strange, deserved protection. As the fleet continued its journey, the shadow of the Vorax loomed larger. Their main forces awaited in Thalian space, ready to crush the survivors. Yet the humans did not flinch. Every ship carried hope, courage, and a promise. We will fight for you. We will see you safe. Lyra, standing on her bridge, turned to her crew. Prepare for what is ahead, she said, her voice trembling but strong. We are not alone. The humans are coming, and with them, we may have a chance. The stars streaked past as the Earth fleet pressed onward. Explosions, plasma fire, and the hum of engines filled the void. But beneath it all, a single truth resonated even in the darkest, coldest reaches of space. Courage and hope could burn brighter than any weapon, and somewhere in the endless black, the Thalians believed again, not just in survival but in the promise of allies, and in the extraordinary courage of a species from a distant blue world called Earth. The Thalian homeworld loomed ahead, scarred and battered from the Vorax advance. Cities lay in ruins, smoke rising like gray fingers into the sky. Lyra gripped the railing on the bridge of her command ship, her eyes fixed on the horizon. For months she had fought despair. Now, hope had arrived. Human ships, thousands of kilometers away, forming a protective line around her planet. Captain Elena stood tall on the bridge of the horizon, looking at the battlefield. This is it, she said. Every life counts. Remember why we are here. Protect them at all costs. The Vorax approached with the force of an unstoppable storm. Their dreadnoughts glowed with deadly energy, and waves of fighters surged like swarms of locusts. The Thalian fleet, small and exhausted, trembled at the sight. But the humans, disciplined and fearless, took positions between the Vorax and the planet. Hold your lines, Elena shouted. We are the shield. Nothing passes through. The first volleys of energy fire streaked across space. Explosions erupted, throwing shards of metal into the void. Lyra's ship shook as her shields absorbed the impact of Vorax plasma. Crew members gripped consoles, faces pale yet determined. Every Thalian heart raced, not from fear alone, but from awe. The humans fought as if the lives of the entire galaxy depended on them. Lyra turned to a young Thalian cadet beside her. Watch, she said softly. This is courage. The cadet's eyes widened as human fighters weaved through enemy fire, attacking Vorax cruisers with precise strikes. The humans did not just fight, they inspired. Each maneuver was daring, almost reckless, yet perfectly coordinated. The Thalians realized that these aliens had crossed light years of space not for conquest, not for glory, but to protect strangers. Amid the chaos, Lyra made a decision. Her ship could no longer stay in the rear. Civilians trapped in a city under attack needed evacuation. She turned to her crew. Prepare the rescue pods, she ordered. We will bring them out ourselves. A human fighter pilot appeared on the comms, responding to Lyra's plan. We're with you, the pilot said. Form up and follow our lead. Together, human and Thalian ships pierced the heart of Vorax territory. Explosions rocked the void as they dodged blasts and debris, reaching the city before the enemy could destroy it completely. Rescue pods launched, carrying hundreds of civilians to safety. Lyra's crew worked tirelessly, shuttling the terrified families while human fighters held the Vorax at bay. On the surface, Thalian citizens watched the sky, their eyes filled with disbelief and hope. For the first time in months, children smiled, elders wept with relief, and entire communities dared to believe they might survive. Humanity's courage had lit a spark that could not be extinguished. Back in orbit, the battle raged. Vorax dreadnoughts fired massive plasma beams cutting through human shields. Yet every human ship endured, fighting harder, pushing forward. Lyra's sensors picked up hundreds of Vorax fighters breaking formation, retreating from coordinated human attacks. This is impossible," whispered a Vorax officer in their own language. "How do they fight like this?" Lyra felt a surge of pride. These humans were extraordinary, risking their lives for a species they had never met, for a planet they had no claim to. "They fight for us," she whispered. "For our people. For hope." The battle continued for hours, but the tide began to turn. The Vorax, unprepared for such relentless courage and unity, faltered. One by one, their ships exploded in brilliant fire, their formations breaking. Thalian warriors, inspired by the humans, joined the fight with renewed vigor. Captain Elena, scanning the battlefield, knew the critical moment had come. "Concentrate fire on the dreadnoughts," she ordered. "Push them back now before they regroup." The combined fleets of humans and Thalians focused their attacks. Vorax ships erupted in explosions, their retreat turning into a rout. Lyra's heart soared. Against all odds, against all despair, they were winning. When the last Vorax vessel fled beyond sensor range, the Thalian system fell quiet. Smoke still rose from destroyed cities, and countless lives had been lost, but the planet survived. Lyra stood on her bridge, breathing heavily, looking at the stars. "Humans," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They came. They fought. And they saved us." On the horizon, Captain Elena looked at her crew, proud and exhausted. "This is what humanity does," she said softly. "We do not leave those in need. Even when the galaxy ignores their cries, we answer. Today we showed the galaxy what it means to care." Lyra turned to her crew, and in that moment, the Thalians understood a truth that would echo for generations. Courage, hope, and compassion could be stronger than any weapon. The humans had not just fought, they had given them a future. And in the quiet aftermath of the battle, as the Thalian people began to rebuild and heal, one thought remained in Lyra's mind. Clear and shining like a star, we are not alone. Not ever again. The smoke from burning cities still hung over Thalia, curling into the sky like gray fingers. But for the first time in months, the planet's people dared to breathe freely. The Vorax had retreated, and the humans who had come across the galaxy now hovered above, guarding the skies and helping the survivors. Lyra walked among the rubble of her once great city. Children clung to her hands, and elders whispered words of gratitude. Everywhere she looked, she saw hope flickering back into the lives of her people. "We are alive," she said quietly, almost to herself. Because they came. Captain Elena and her crew had not come merely to fight. They were helping rebuild. Engineers worked side by side with Thalians, repairing damaged ships, restoring communications, and clearing debris from streets and ports. The humans shared knowledge, medicine, and even food, showing that their mission was more than survival. It was compassion in action. Lyra watched as a human engineer adjusted a power generator for a hospital. Sparks flew, but the engineer smiled and reassured the Thalians. "We've got this. You focus on your people. We're here for you." The words were simple, yet filled with a depth of meaning that brought tears to Lyra's eyes. In the days that followed, Thalians and humans worked together to rescue trapped civilians, rebuild infrastructure, and heal the wounded. The emotional bond grew stronger with each passing moment. For the first time, the Thalians understood the true strength of humanity, not in weapons or warships, but in courage, compassion, and the willingness to act when no one else would. Lyra spent time with her crew and the human officers, learning about Earth and its people. She discovered that these humans had chosen to leave their own homes, their families, and the safety of their own worlds to help strangers across light years of space. Every story they told filled her heart with awe. One evening, as the twin suns of Thalia set over the horizon, Lyra stood beside Captain Elena on a hill overlooking the recovering city. The sky was a mix of orange and purple, the first colors of peace in months. "You saved us," Lyra said softly. "I don't know how to thank you," Elena smiled gently. "You don't need to thank us. We answered your call. That's enough." She looked at the young Thalian children playing nearby, laughing for the first time in weeks. You will rebuild. You will be stronger because you survived, and the galaxy will remember that hope lives if we choose to protect it. Lyra nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. For so long she had carried fear and despair. Now she carried something else: gratitude, respect, and a profound belief in the courage of others. Humanity had shown them that even when all seems lost, hope could arrive in the form of determination, bravery, and selflessness. Meanwhile, the Thalian fleet, repaired and reinforced, began training alongside the human ships. They shared tactics, strategies, and technology, creating a partnership that would last far beyond the battle. Lyra watched as her people learned from humans, not just how to fight, but how to be courageous, how to face fear with unwavering resolve. Children gathered around human officers asking questions, fascinated by stories of Earth and the distant blue world that had crossed the galaxy to save them. Their laughter, bright and innocent, was a testament to life returning to a world that had almost been lost. Lyra returned to the command bridge one evening and sent a signal across the galaxy, not a plea, but a message of hope. We survived, we live. Earth answered when all others did not. We will never forget. Elena received the transmission aboard the Horizon and allowed herself a quiet moment of satisfaction. Humanity had made a choice, and it had mattered. It had changed the course of an entire civilization's future. Lyra felt a new determination rising in her heart. The Vorax could return, but she now knew that Thalians would never face the galaxy alone again. They had allies, they had hope, and they had seen courage in action. That night, as Thalia's twin moons rose over the horizon, Lyra looked up at the stars. The scars of war were visible, but so was the light of recovery. The galaxy had been silent when they cried, but humanity had answered. And that answer had been enough to change everything. For the Thalians, the turning tide was not just a victory in battle. It was proof that courage, compassion, and selflessness could conquer despair. And in the hearts of humans and Thalians alike, a bond had formed that would echo across the stars for generations. The war was over, but its echoes remained. Thalia's cities, though still scarred, were alive with movement and rebuilding. The people moved through streets cleared of rubble, repairing homes, tending the wounded, and comforting children who had seen too much for their age. The once quiet planet was now filled with the sounds of life returning. Lyra stood atop a hill overlooking the city. The twin suns of Thalia rose slowly, casting golden light over the recovering world. She felt the weight of months of fear and despair finally lift from her shoulders. Humanity had come. They had answered the cry of a species that no one else had heard, and they had fought, not for glory or conquest, but because it was right. Captain Elena and the human crew prepared to depart, their mission complete. The Horizon and its fleet had repaired, refueled, and ensured that the Thalians would be safe long after they left. The humans had become more than allies. They had become friends, mentors, and saviors. Lyra approached Captain Elena, her antennas quivering slightly with emotion. "You came when no one else would," she said softly. "You crossed the galaxy for us. For strangers. I don't think we can ever repay you." Elena shook her head, smiling. "You don't need to repay us. We did what any life would hope someone would do for them. You were calling out and we answered. That is enough." The Thalians gathered on the streets and hills, watching the humans prepare to leave. Children waved, elders bowed, and warriors stood at attention. There were tears in every eye, a mix of sorrow at parting and joy at survival. The humans had given them a chance at life, and every Thalian knew it. Lyra returned to the command bridge, her heart heavy but full. She sent one final transmission into the galaxy. "To all who may hear this," her voice said, steady and proud, "we survived because someone chose to act. The galaxy may be silent to cries for help, but we have learned that hope exists." Earth answered. Humanity answered, and we will never forget. Captain Elena and her crew boarded their ships, preparing to jump back to Earth. Marcus stood at the console, watching Thalia recede in the view screen. "Do you think they'll remember us?" he asked quietly. Elena looked out at the rising suns of Thalia and nodded. "Yes, and I hope the galaxy remembers too. Today we proved that courage, compassion, and hope can be stronger than fear or cruelty. That is humanity's answer." As the jump engines engaged, Lyra watched the human ships streak into light, carrying with them the promise of protection and friendship. For Thalians, this moment was more than victory. It was the birth of a new era, They had seen courage across the stars, and it had changed them forever. In the following days, Thalians rebuilt their world with renewed determination. Inspired by humanity's courage, they trained harder, shared knowledge, and prepared for the possibility of future threats. But now, they knew they would never be alone. They had friends across the galaxy willing to answer a cry for help, willing to fight, willing to stand with them. Lyra walked among the children, teaching them to laugh again, to play, and to dream. Each story of the humans who had saved them was told and retold, becoming a legend of hope. Every citizen, young and old, carried the memory of their courage in their hearts, even in quiet moments. When the suns of Thalia dipped below the horizon, Lyra looked to the stars and felt a connection she had never felt before. Somewhere out there, humans sailed among the stars, ready to answer another call, ready to fight for life when the galaxy might turn its back. That knowledge gave her strength, and so Thalia thrived once more. Its people rebuilt their cities, restored their fleets, and honored the humans who had come to their aid. For generations, Thalians would remember the day hope came from a distant blue world, the day the galaxy seemed silent, but one species refused to turn away. Lyra looked out over the horizon one last time before returning to her duties. The scars of war remained, but so did the knowledge that courage could overcome despair, that selflessness could inspire a people, and that hope could arrive even when all seems lost. In the quiet of the cosmos, a single truth shone brighter than any star. Life is worth protecting. And humanity had shown that across the galaxy, one species could make a difference. The suns rose again over Thalia, warm and golden. The Thalians walked forward into a new dawn, hearts full of gratitude, courage, and the unshakable knowledge that they were not alone. And somewhere across the stars, humans sailed onward, answering cries that no one else would, carrying hope, courage, and the enduring message that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, someone will always answer.